As the federal parliament resumes, belatedly tomorrow, as I said, with the first physical evidence of how badly the Liberal National Coalition fared on May 10, a long 10 weeks ago, Labor will file into the lower house and fill 94 seats. They'll actually spill over, we're told, into the coalition side of the House, potentially. Polling yesterday showed the picture is even worse now for the opposition than it was on election day, with the coalition's primary vote sinking to 29%. And as Peter Credlin said tonight, she can remember when it was at that level. And I said, you have to go back to the 1940s to find them in such a dire situation. Now, you have to feel for the new leader, Susan Lee. If she survives, she's staring at best case scenario, 2 terms in opposition, and who'd want to do that job? And as I pointed out, the states are mostly in as bad, if not worse situations, bar probably Queensland. Now, policy is what Susan Lee and her party must concentrate on, because believe me, Labor might be hugely popular in inner city Sydney and Melbourne and New South Wales and South Australia, and South Australians might be content with Peter Malinauskas and New South Wales with Chris Minns, but get outside the metro areas and regional and rural Australia are on a collision course with the state and federal governments. They feel unloved, they feel ignored and used. Now, it varies from state to state, obviously, but the insistence from federal Labor, supported by the Greens, to carpet bomb their communities with green energy projects, refusing to listen to their complaints, is, and I've been saying this for some time, this is going to explode into a massive issue. Now, if you don't believe me, take a drive west of Sydney or Melbourne. I drove through the small town of Rokewood, 136 kilometres northwest of Melbourne, just yesterday. Population of that little town, Rokewood, a couple of hundred, maybe 250, 300 people. Now, this little community, and I was staggered at what I saw, is surrounded literally by giant wind turbines of the Golden Plains Wind Farm, the biggest wind farm in Victoria. It hosts, for now, 122 wind turbines of almost one for every human that lives in that village. Now, normally these things are situated off in the distance, but to drive past one sitting on a boundary fence next to an almost single-lane road is frightening. Yesterday in that area, started around 2 or 3 degrees in the morning, the sun was out, but almost zero wind, and these things just sat there, barely turning. I kid you not, I felt like some alien invasion had taken place surrounding this little town, and there were hundreds more of these things off on the horizon doing absolutely nothing. Now, if you were to suggest putting one of these things in suburbia, there would be a riot. But no, it's the bush that will be made to suffer. Golden Plains, by the way, is owned largely by 2 companies, TAG Energy and a mob called Inca Group. On their website, TAG admits the turbines are situated in broadacre cropping land and livestock grazing land. They make a claim, this wind factory, will be big enough to power 765,000 homes, and then prevent 4.5 million tonnes of carbon dioxide being emitted annually into the atmosphere. I mean, you and I you can make up these numbers. You can pluck any sort of figures you like to make a case like they are trying to make. TAG Energy, by the way, is foreign-owned by a combination of French and Italian investors, founded in 2019 by French entrepreneur Jacques Veyrat. And the Agnelli family, you might know their name. They own Ferrari, the Italian football team Juventus, and lots of other major stuff. Now, clearly these Europeans see a buck to be made building wind farms in Australia, but as the head of the Australian industry group, Innes Willocks, said in a speech at the weekend, and hear this in the context of that foreign-owned wind farm in Rokewood, Innes said Australia doesn't make much of anything anymore. He used figures to show, in fact, in the year ending June 2024 or so, a year ago, saw 5,136 manufacturing businesses closed down. And Innes pointed out, we don't even make peanut butter anymore. I couldn't believe that, so I checked. I got a jar of Bega crunchy peanut butter out of the pantry. It carries a label saying made in Australia, then this, with, quote, at least 10% Australian produce. I mean, my point here, we are with a dominant Labor victory in May. off the back of a promise to make things in Australia, and we are going in the other direction at a rapid rate, even surrounding small country towns with foreign-owned and foreign-made wind turbines dominating the Australian farming landscape. Look, if Susan Lee and the Coalition want to make some noise starting tomorrow, they might start right there.